Come quick. He's calling for Mom. I received a call from my husband telling me that our 8-year-old son had fallen from the third floor of an apartment building. He was seriously injured, semi-conscious, and had been rushed to the hospital. There's no way I'm going. That was my instant response. I thought, but that child is. I almost said something but swallowed my words and fell silent. Then my husband bitterly said to me, "What a cold-hearted woman you are." It's understandable that he would think so. But there was a complicated reason for it. My name is Jenny, and I'm 35 years old. After graduating from university, I worked as a full-time employee at a publishing company. After getting married, I switched to part-time. I lived with my husband, Matt, who is 5 years older than me, and our 8-year-old son, Alex. However, Matt was always busy with work, leaving all the housework and childcare to me. Despite this, his salary was low, so the living expenses he gave me were minimal. I managed to get by on my part-time income. The biggest source of stress was my son, who was going through a rebellious phase. He would respond indifferently whenever I spoke to him, and his attitude seemed to worsen day by day. One day, after coming home from school, Alex threw his backpack down and started washing his hands. Usually he would immediately take his belongings to his room. So I wondered what was happening and peeked into the washroom. "What are you looking at? Why are you so confrontational?" "It's because I hate you, obviously." Sighing, I attempted to tidy up his backpack when he yelled, "Don't touch it." Startled by his intensity, Alex stood glaring at me. "I'll get dirty if you touch me." "That's too much." "Apologize." "Shut up." Old hag. Realizing this couldn't continue, I warned him about his manner of speaking. However, he seemed uninterested in changing his attitude, and turned his back on me after a dismissive humph. That's when I noticed blood seeping from his hand. "You're hurt." "Wait here, I'll disinfect it." Alex snatched the first aid kit I brought, saying, "It's none of your business." He refused to let me help, and disinfected not only his hand but also a scraped knee himself. I thought, what a handful. Believing that everyone goes through such phases, I decided to move on and place the hotcakes I had made on the table. They were his favorite, and he would usually eat them even when he was angry. But that day, perhaps because he was in a particularly bad mood, he threw the hotcakes into the trash without having a bite. Hey! It's absolutely unacceptable to waste food. Then you can pick them up from the trash and eat them. After his cold response, Alex locked himself in his room with his backpack. As I realized that provoking him further would only make him more stubborn, I, feeling empty, looked at the snacks thrown away so carelessly. When my husband returned home that night, I tried to discuss the situation with him. But he simply said, "I've left the parenting to you, haven't I?" and didn't offer any support. Still, anxious about the continuation of our strained relationship, I asked Matt to talk to our son when he had the time. "I'm tired. Give me a break." Saying this, he quickly went straight to bed. After that, my son's rebellious attitude towards me remained unchanged, leading to days filled with frustration. A few days later, while Alex was at school, I was cleaning his room when I noticed a diary on his desk. I thought, even though he's my son, I wonder if reading this would be invading his privacy. But I was torn, but desperate to understand why he kept behaving this way towards me. I picked up the diary. Just then, my phone rang. It was my husband, Matt. "It's an emergency. Alex fell from the third floor of the apartment." "What?" Confused, I asked, "Which apartment?" and Matt hesitated before answering, which gave me a bad feeling. "Is Alex okay?" "He's in the operating room right now." I don't know what to do. Hearing my husband's panicked voice, I asked where he was, and he told me he was at the emergency center in the next town. The police had called him at work to inform him that Alex had been urgently taken to the hospital. Anyway, come quick. He's calling for Mom. There's no way I'm going. That was my instant response. I thought, but that child is. I almost said something, but instead, I remained silent. Then, my husband angrily said to me, "What a cold-hearted woman you are." It's understandable that he would think so. After apologizing, I asked again about our son's condition. And he told me Alex was semi-conscious and seriously injured. Oh no. What should I do? Panicking, I immediately got into my car and rushed to the hospital. Upon arrival, I found my husband sitting dejectedly in the waiting room. Our son had broken his arms and legs and was undergoing emergency surgery. However, the police mentioned that a flower bed where Alex fell had cushioned his fall somewhat, allowing him to survive the initial impact. After being told by the doctor to prepare for the worst, I couldn't stop my tears. An hour later, waiting in front of the operating room, Alex was wheeled out on a stretcher, weakly calling for a mom, in a delirious state. After Alex was moved to the ICU, the doctor told us he was in a state of confusion and that it was too early to say anything definitive. But they would do all they could. Following the nurse's instructions for hospital admission procedures, my husband urged me to go home and fetch our insurance card. At home, I remembered Alex's diary and, looking inside, I found entries about why he hated me. I thought, so that's it. That's why he's been so cold towards me. But I knew I couldn't judge everything based on Alex's diary alone. Matt had said he would contact me if anything happened. So I went into his room to look for something and found his old mobile phone. After charging it and turning it on, I was shocked and immediately contacted a certain person, uncovering my husband's secret. I thought, I'm going to confront Matt thoroughly. Filled with a fighting spirit, I returned to the hospital. There, I found him in the waiting room, doing some calculations with a calculator. Sorry to keep you waiting. How's Alex? Huh? Oh, he hasn't woken up yet. Wait, why is Tracy here? I contacted her and went to pick her up. Indeed, the Tracy I had contacted was Alex's biological mother. Perhaps the mom Alex was calling for was her. Alex was Matt's child from a previous relationship, and we had only been remarried for a year. After briefly explaining the situation, the nurse promptly took Tracy and me to see Alex. My husband followed us with an anxious look on his face. As Tracy came into view, she quickly approached and tightly grasped Alex's hand. Tears streaming down her face as she cried, "Mommy's here. Please wake up. If I could take your place, I would. I don't live in that apartment anymore." You didn't know that. The apartment from which Alex had fallen was originally the place where Matt and Tracy, as a couple, had lived with Alex. When I had asked my husband which apartment it was, his hesitation made me immediately realize this fact. According to the police, who had explained the situation at the hospital, Alex had been trying to climb from the first floor to the third-floor balcony. He had gone to visit Tracy but found the front door closed, leading him to take such drastic action. The thought of him going to such lengths to see his biological mother brought tears to my eyes once again. However, Matt grabbed Tracy by the shoulder with a sharp look in his eyes. After cheating on me, you have some nerve showing up here. I've told you, that was a misunderstanding. In the end, your frivolous actions were recognized, and I won custody of Alex. Just admit it already. Having listened silently, I felt a surge of anger and brushed off my husband's hand from Tracy's shoulder. Then, grabbing his hand, I left the intensive care unit, leaving Tracy behind. You told me that the reason for our divorce was Tracy's affair, right? But you told Alex a different reason, didn't you? As if telling me to keep quiet, Matt raised his eyebrows in an attempt to silence me. Realizing he wouldn't tell the truth otherwise, I showed him our son's diary. It was written there that I had an affair with Matt and stole him from Tracy. Furthermore, when Alex asked about the reason for the divorce, he had been told directly by Matt himself. From Alex's perspective, it was easier to harbor anger towards me. Who he was told was the other woman than his own father. I finally understand why Alex hates me so much. It was all because of you. We met after you were already divorced, right? I couldn't tell him Tracy was cheating. It would only hurt Alex. Oh, but I found emails on your old phone. You were asking a friend to seduce Tracy. And you got turned down by that friend, I know that too. At that time, Matt was in the midst of an affair with another woman. And had even gone into debt buying her expensive gifts. Eventually, discarded by that woman, Matt was left with nothing but debt. He fabricated a story about Tracy's infidelity to divorce her and claim compensation. All to settle his debts. I informed him that I had found Tracy's contact information through his phone. Emphasizing, try making an excuse if you can. While thrusting the mobile phone in front of his nose. He visibly paled, his eyes darting around. And you fabricated Tracy's affair, didn't you? The photos you saved on your phone are clearly edited. What? Are you trying to frame me? I worked as a photographer for a publishing company, so I can tell immediately. The heads are just pasted onto different bodies, the necks are slightly off. Pointing to the mismatched area, Matt started to sweat. He hadn't expected me to have professional insight into photography. Since I had only told my husband that I worked at a publishing company. He probably never imagined that I would be handling a camera. So, what now? Give Tracy custody of Alex. Despite Matt shaking his head and refusing to listen, I persisted. You only took Alex for the child support money, right? And it seems like you still have debt. I had also found bills from financial companies in his room, revealing a remaining debt of $30,000. It's insane to go this far. She said she wanted a Birkin bag, and I couldn't say no. I see. And how much were you receiving from Tracy for child support each month? $600 each. Looking at my husband's face as he whispered with a barely audible voice. I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of pity. It's unacceptable to separate a mother and her child seeking each other out. All for the sake of compensation and child support. My husband deeply apologized to me, trembling with anger. It's one of my biggest requests in life. Help me pay off the debt. Request denied. How many lifelong requests do you have anyway? My husband mumbled something, but it was incoherent. Just tell me one thing, why did you marry me? I had been raising Alex for a year, and I realized it's beyond my capacity. According to my husband, me becoming a part-time worker after our marriage was an unforeseen complication. But he thought it was beneficial since I could take care of Alex and help pay off some of the debt. He was allocating 2/3 of his salary to repayments. Which is why the household money he gave me was so limited. Moreover, his panic after Alex's fall from the apartment was because he thought he wouldn't be able to receive child support anymore. I was doing some calculations and realized, if Alex doesn't survive, I can receive life insurance money, right? At this point, I was utterly flabbergasted by his line of thinking. I understand what you're thinking and the situation very well. So, then, we're getting a divorce. Also, I will ensure Tracy gets custody of Alex. Continuing like this, you might end up being charged for receiving compensation. and child support under false pretenses. My words made my husband flinch. He looked around nervously, dreading police involvement. I told him I've already referred Tracy to a lawyer I know. Realizing he had no way out, Matt agreed to relinquish custody. This is bad. What about my debts? You incurred them, so you're responsible for paying them back. Goodbye. Leaving my dazed husband behind, I returned to the ICU where Alex and Tracy were. I asked the nurse to ensure Matt wouldn't enter the room, as Alex would mind. Alex. Alex. Please open your eyes. Perhaps Tracy's voice reached him as Alex slowly opened his eyes. A doctor quickly came over, examined him, and reassured us that there was no longer any concern. Mom. I've missed you. Me too. The two of them embraced tightly, rejoicing in their reunion. I've spoken with Dad. Alex, from now on, you can live with your real mom. What? I shared the truth with both Alex and Tracy, shocked by what they heard. Being 8 years old, Alex was able to understand properly. Thank you. I was mistaken. That's okay. But your mistake was trying to climb the apartment balcony. Don't do anything dangerous again. I promise. Watching Alex beaming at me, I felt relieved knowing he would finally be happy. Tracy tenderly stroked Alex's cheek, her face wet with joyful tears. Thank you so much. I don't know how to express my gratitude. I've been horrible to you, I'm sorry. And thank you. Moved by my son's words, I burst into tears. I'm passing the baton to Tracy as your mother. Alex, make up for lost time and spoil yourself with mom's love. Though it was hard to part with Alex, whom I had considered my son for a year. I knew they needed to be together. I handed Tracy Alex's health insurance card and stepped outside. Without a backward glance at my husband still frozen in the hallway, I left the hospital. I formally divorced my husband, claiming $20,000 in compensation. Tracy also filed claims against him for the compensation and child support she had paid, totaling $35,000. To cover these payments, he resorted to borrowing money at high interest rates, eventually defaulting and forcing him to resign from his job due to incessant calls at his workplace. Now, he's working off his debt by living and working at a place referred by the financial company. His future will undoubtedly be filled with hardship, all of his own making. Later, Tracy informed me that she had successfully regained custody of Alex and they were living together. I returned to full-time employment and am enjoying my work freely. Lately, the photographs I've taken have been receiving attention, bringing me joyous days.